This real-side experience follows along the theme of that which I have been sharing on these open Skypes of late, the identifying of agreements and emotional attachments, bringing them from the unseen, from the subconscious, that we become conscious then of that which is cause and effect binding us to creation. This is, of course, the design of the simulators, that we generate experience through the decisions, choices, and agreements we make through the vehicles of the personal created self, that we eventually decide to wake up to the true reality of what we are, free beings of real light, and recognize that which we are through the comparison that everything in creation provides. For everything in creation, regardless of what it is, represents what the is not, and continuous experience in creation is necessary until this recognition is established, as we decide to take the time to do so, to set ourselves up to constantly compare what we are going through in the simulation, the situations, thoughts and emotions, to this isness, utilizing the sun and the animals as the best reference for this true reality, a reference for this state of being isness that is aside from anything created and generated through the body vehicles. To become conscious and aware of everything that is affecting experience through our decided construction of the created consciousness personal self, allows that we are not resigned and restricted to creation through the automatic generating of experience, that the idea attachments and agreement taplines would ensure through the subconscious, the vaster part of the created self. As up until now, we had been unconscious of the mechanics of creation, and the personal self that creates it, like a program running of its own accord. We can make additional adjustments as we chase what thrills are available each lifetime around, but generally the personal self-experience generator is running based on the ingrained routines, patterns, and control programming that has been agreed to for endless lifetimes, including all the attachments and agreements we have forged since entering the simulator that make up the created consciousness and maintain our restriction to creation. And so we become aware of how everything works in creation. We become conscious of what we are generating moment to moment by way of created ideas, decisions, and agreements, and we delve into the subconscious and unearth all the tapline agreements and attachments that make up the created consciousness. Once revealed, we can decide the release of these subconscious taplines we were unconscious and unaware of. This process is continuous, and with the aid of the new you song and the real guides, it is represented on the real side in all the varied ways that it is. Generally, the personal self is represented as a house on the real side, and the unveiling of the subconscious taplines and the releasing of them demonstrated as sifting through our personal self-houses and clearing out the clutter. The real side experiences I shared previously were along these lines, to the extent where the real guides drove a digger through my house to more effectively break up the construction of the personal self, and then onto the street beyond to break up the roads, a redoing of everything, and a breaking down of the rigidity of creation that the roads represented. We must bear in mind that we are multi-dimensional beings. As hard as this may seem to grasp for the unaware, who have been indoctrinated into a one-dimensional consideration where most can't see beyond the surface world, beyond the senses, and the physical level they have agreed to. Everything is going on simultaneously at the same moment in the nowness of the ease, and it is only where our personal view happens to be as to what of this everything we are experiencing, based on the decisions, intent, and choices we make. And so, in fact, we are experiencing everything we ever had in the simulators throughout all our lifetimes, and also we are experiencing everything on the life levels of creation in this nowness moment. We might say, in fact, then, in the nowness of the is, we have a seemingly endless array of potential body forms from an endless array of lifetimes and worlds, with their respective created consciousnesses constructed according to what was decided at that moment for each, and each with a corresponding personal self that is recreated on the real side as a house, with all the tapline agreements and attachments that make up its construction. And so we generally will have our real side experiences of tapline revealing and removing from the personal self-houses of this current lifetime, and how the created consciousness stands now, but not always, I would suggest. We may get glimpses of similar experiences of house tidying or reordering that are occurring from different lifetimes, body forms, worlds, and however the created consciousness was constructed at that moment. We might say then, these are glimpses into past lifetimes, or even future ones, but really time is irrelevant as the created idea that it is, as simply another decided and agreed upon idea that is another comparison to what the is not. For in this recent real side experience, I was in the personal self-represented house again, but the house looked very strange in its overall construction. Naturally, the real side houses would look very much like those we live in on the physical in this lifetime, except for the extra capacity they have for our taplines. And so it makes sense that if we indeed were to have glimpses of a tapline identifying and removing from physical level recreated houses on the real side, but that were houses or homes from other worlds, maybe very alien to our own, then of course the houses would look very strange to the personal self as it is now. but it was quite apparent in this real side experience that this was a home, and the real awareness would know what was taking place, regardless of any personal self-confusion. Then it's a case of recognizing these additional insights being afforded to us by our real awareness, to add detail to what we are visually seeing. The real awareness has access to everything it has put all its personal created selves through, all the lifetimes, worlds and dimensions. So everything creationally based is known to the real awareness. What made it more apparent that this was an altogether different lifetime and spot in creation was not just the home itself and its alien design, but also the body form I was operating from during this experience. For I was in the body vehicle of a two-legged cat person, and there I was, in my personal self, recreated as a house on the real side, and in the company of individuals that my real awareness discernment determined to be real guides. For the real awareness can determine intent and the nature of all individuals encountered on the real side, and the real guides have a kind of isness real standing presence that is very distinctive and can't be faked. And in a similar way to how the real guide smashed through the walls of my personal self-house before on a digger, a level of extreme and swift demolition that I evidently agreed with, it was so here, in my cat person form, and in the company of the real guides. We were tearing this personal self-house asunder, smashing it to pieces, wielding huge hammers that looked not dissimilar to Thor's. It was a complete and utter demolition job, rather satisfying to be sure. And so, this experience highlights the multi-dimensional nature of ourselves, highlights how everything is in this isness, including all creational lives ever lived, and it is simply where our awareness happens to be, as to the viewpoints we are afforded. And so overall, throughout all the multi-dimensional construction of our created consciousness throughout all the lifetimes, body forms, and positions in creation we are occupying now, we are undertaking, if we so decide, an almighty demolition of the multi-dimensional personal self, and the releasing therefore of all the emotional attachments and agreements that bind us to creation. We might say we are the culmination of our agreements as we stand now. So, would it not make sense to demolish only our current created consciousness houses? But the complexity of creation, with all its multi-faceted aspects, is such that we really can't assume anything in regards to how our individual process unfolds.
We all go through a lot, don't we? It's a torture chamber here, and you're wonderful, Kevin, and great movie series someday all over the place that people will seeing this, and see if we can get some actors to act for free to play their parts in this, or really cheap, couple pesos a day as we get going. But yes, tearing apart that little self and getting to it, and you got to be willing. That's the biggie, is to be willing. And again, most people aren't. They cherish the things that they've collected, and I understand it's a huge process. And I look at myself after over 50 years of doing this here, and it's still, there's little things there that that cling, and plus all the stuff in the air, like the pollution in the air. You have all these thought forms and whatever going in subliminal, so it's a real challenge here to get through any of this. Yes.
Thank you for listening to this video. The NUUU Nations United Universal University is dedicated to supporting and providing a real purpose and real awareness with the all-natural environment supporting all of us. First comes this earth, with food and rainforests, and to protect what is still here. If you want to know more, contact USA Dean Val and UK Dean Kevin on Facebook and YouTube, or through the website provided in the links, DwayneTheGreatWriter.net. For those who have the awareness to see what is actually taking place here, with all the natural devastation, which is also purposely planned by world controllers, you now have a real opportunity to step up and do something with those who also care about your planet Earth. Dwayne Lee Hepner has created the NUUU, Nations United Universal University, which completely entails the all-natural environment everywhere, and a real education that has real value, and that far surpasses any commonly created indoctrinating educational system that does not focus on what sustains all of us naturally. Real survival makes sense with everything here that is self-sustaining.